Hey everybody, some of y'all are going to find this interesting. So I'm working on the back end of an app, a server with SQL and authentication and all sorts of stuff like that. And I have a very rough draft of this server. I'm not doing, the coding perfectly right now. This is something I'm working on. And I ran into something where I could emulate an SQL injection, and I want to give y'all a real world example of an SQL injection. So basically, SQL is a database, so you can store tables and inside of these SQL databases. So in my instance, I'm using MySQL. There's other databases like MongoDB or SQLite, but in this case I'm using MySQL, and I wanted to show y'all a real world example of SQL injection. So you can see this is a PHP script, and it's opening a MySQL connection, and then it's doing this authentication check. It's saying select one from profiles where ID equals user ID and auth equals auth. So you can think of the auth as the password, so like user ID and password. And so if it finds this match where it has the user ID and the authentication, then it will return that row. And basically I'm just saying as long as the row is greater than 0, then the authentication is okay because it returned a row. But if it doesn't return a row, then authentication failed. One of the conditions failed, or the ID isn't, and auth isn't in the table. So I wanted to show you where you could get around this from an attacker could get around this. So for example, we have, select one from user ID where ID equals user ID and auth equals auth. But what if you could change the statement to say where ID equals user ID or auth equals, and then just say like gibberish or something. So for example, in between here you would add or auth equals all, and then just say open quote, and there's all this. And obviously the authentication isn't going to equal all of that. So I'm going to show you here in a second how this works. So I've got the server up here, and I'm supplying the user ID. It's this big long number, and then the authentication, I'm going to say we just don't know it. And so right here I just have all these letters, random letters. And when I press enter, it just says authentication failed. So if you don't know, the question mark auth equals and then the and symbol and user ID equals, that's the way you can pass in things into the PHP script. So you can see here up above, the auth is getting it from the URL, user ID is getting it from the URL here. The underscore get is a PHP thing for that. So you can see it's saying authentication failed, but right here we have and user ID. Let's just take out the auth. We don't even need that. So let me show you. If you remove it, it's still going to say authentication failed. And then we're going to, instead of the user ID being this, we can close quote the user ID right here. And then we can add an or, and then a space, and then an open quote. Now even this would work, but I want to change it to like or auth equals open quote. And then press enter, and there you can see that it says authentication okay. So that was SQL injection. SQL injection is where you're injecting something into the SQL command that shouldn't be there. And So in this case, it's not a big deal. I mean, this doesn't give out any valuable information when you get past this authentication. And even when it gets past the authentication, it still would need a correct user ID. So you could supply, so whenever it finds that user ID, it's not even gonna find that user ID correctly. It's gonna mess up the statement inside of here, and so that's not really gonna work. But you could see where this SQL injection could get pretty dangerous if you have some poorly coded database thing on a server. So basically all SQL injections can be avoided by good coding practices. And Java makes that easy. PHP, I'm going to be looking into that. And you can imagine where you could somehow dump out a whole table, SQL table, from some sort of SQL injection. If you could alter the SQL command in such a way. So I just wanted to show y'all, this is actually kind of a very basic introduction to SQL injection, even though I really just wanted to give you a real world example. So thank you all for watching. I hope this was interesting, and have a great day.